So we move on to Green Lantern, the animated series. This was episode six, no seven, excuse me, entitled Reckoning. Um, this episode was good because we got to see a couple of people and we got to see Atrocitus since the for a while since the first episode, second episode. So the synopsis of this episode basically is the fact that it seems like Razor betrayed Hal and Kilowog basically to return back to the Red Lanterns, but and actually he went there to do something more, and I'll explain that later. This episode was really good. This was action packed, but it also it also gave some backstories on the certain characters and things like that. That was really good. Uh, so like I said, Razor seemingly looks like he had betrayed Hal and them, but by setting off shutting down some systems on Aya on their ship. Uh, Unfortunately, it was just a diversion so he can get away and go back to the Red Lantern's home world, Shard, which we actually get to see. Now, when Razor arrived back on the planet, it seemed that all the other Red Lanterns thought he had died um, in the episode, from episode 2, when they blew up the planet. I'm forgetting the planet's name. It was kind of interesting because we got to see Belize in this episode. She was there, which was cool. I got to, she was talking to him about, we were at your funeral. It was a hero's funeral and everything like that. So it kind of gave us a little bit more intake of why Atrocitus and the other Red Lanterns haven't been going out looking for Hal and the gang, because they all thought they were dead. So when Hal and Kilowog realized that it was just a diversion, they go looking for Razor, and Aya basically sets them on a course towards the homeworld of Shard. Basically, in doing so, we back on Shard. Razor is supposedly recharging his ring, and getting his recharge himself, but in reality, it was false. Razor is basically captured and held for questioning by Atrocitus and many other lanterns, and they're basically Razor is just like a prisoner of war. Basically, he's just being tied up, and they're just literally torturing him. So it's up to Hal and Kilowog and Aya to get him out. And they get inside of Shard, and Cal puts on a costume of one of the guards to look like himself, to look like one of the guards, so he can sneak while. And he kind of knocks Kilowog out. He's like, Kilowog, do you trust me? And knocks him out so Kilowog can play like the captive Green Lantern, while Aya goes off looking for a way to shut down the planet and things like that. While Hal is in disguise, he turns to I guess one of the the chronicles of the Green Lantern of the Red Lantern Corps, and he basically tells the story of how the Red Lanterns came to be and how Atrocitus came to be. In a way, she said the Guardians basically told them to join them, but they decided not to. So the Guardians set the Manhunters on them. So this was the first time we actually heard of the Manhunters, and Hal is listening to this, and he's kind of like, wow, I can't believe the Guardians would do this, and thus that's kind of how Atrocitus was born and everything like that. So that was pretty interesting, and that's when Atrocitus and the rest of the Red Lanterns get wind of the Red Lanterns, because actually Hal brings Kilowog to Atrocitus, and that's when they set their plan into motion. And Aya sets off I guess it was like a bomb or so. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. To like stop the planet and things like that. And also, she was downloading a file as well. And then there's a battle between Atrocitus and you know uh, Kilowog and Hal. And when Atrocitus sees Hal, he's like, "You," and they just go at it again. In the meantime, Razor is able to recharge his ring, and he kind of joins the fray. And in doing so, um, he's like, "Get Razor's like, get everybody out, and I'll meet you there." And while Hal tells Aya to basically it's time to leave. Her download wasn't finished, and all of a sudden you turn from behind and you see Atrocitus standing behind her, and then he basically damages Aya really bad, like he breaks her legs or arms, and basically Razor goes back to save her in a way. It's up, while Hal and Kilowog, Hal gets Kilowog out of there because he's pretty much still disorientated from the other Red Lanterns, things like that. And we get a pretty decent fight between Razor and Atrocitus, and we also get to explain a little bit more of what happened between these two. It seems that everything that has happened to Razor was all part of a plan that was created by Atrocitus. Atrocitus was the mastermind behind everything that happened to Razor and his people. And he even tells him like the final part to turning you to me on my side was killing your beloved, and that set Razor off. And we got to see the napalm breath that we see from the Red Lanterns in the comics. We got to see it, and Razor had him Atrocitus at his mercy until Aya is basically saying, you have to get me out of here or we're all dead. And Razor's like, no. And unfortunately, he finally comes to his senses and he takes Aya and heads back to the ship. And that was and leaves Atrocitus there. It was really good. He had Atrocitus at his mercy. He could have did whatever he wanted to him, but he didn't. Which kind of gives a little bit more sign of his character. And on the ship, basically, Hal kind of lectures Razor like you did this, it was a pig-headed move, bold-headed move. You shouldn't have done it. And Aya basically says she was able to download the rest of the file, and we get to see what is going on. There's an army. The Red Lanterns has an army, and it's crazy. And that's pretty much how the episode ended, with Hal and them like in awe, like, oh, now this has just gotten bigger now. And I thought that was really good. I thought this episode was really good. It focused a lot more on Razor. We got the spotlight on Razor. We got to see the key points of what turned Razor to the Red Lanterns, everything like that. I thought it was well done. It was good to see some of the other Red Lanterns like Belize, and I'm forgetting that the Ram like Red Lantern. I'm forgetting his name, but he was the one that pretty much took it to Kilowog, and it was really good to me. I really enjoyed this episode. But bottom line, guys, what did you think of this episode? Episode 7, Reckoning of Green Lantern, the animated series. But other than that, this is Mount Vernon Kid. On to the next.